with winds up to 70 miles an hour. And so apparently this morning, right after a thunderclap, the power went out. So either lightning struck something or the wind knocked something over. But obviously I have it back now. So yeah, so the weather's been interesting out here, and we're going to be suffering through it this week as well. So, but hot weather is no stranger to you guys, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're used to. We're actually going to get a little cool streak next week, to where it's going to be in the 80s, and I think the heat indexes are going to be under 100. So, it's going to be kind of nice.
Under 100?
Yeah.
That's kind of nice.
For this time of year, yes,
welcome. I got to teach a class next weekend, so I haven't even looked at weather yet for that.
Yeah, I've actually got to look and see when my next class is. I know it's in September, but I think it's the first weekend of September. I'm not positive.
So, Kevin, how was your week?
This last week and next week, honestly, have been really rough. Lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff going on at work. Just bouncing all over the place. So I was actually yesterday able to get out and do about a 45 minute ride, mile ride. I mean, honestly, just trying to blow off some steam, just riding around. I know this is a curvy road. Just kind of went down it, came back, did a couple other things. So that was a basis of the basis of my weekend. For as late as riding goes. Outside of that, I really wasn't doing too much. Anyway. So what do you want to talk about tonight? I actually had something.
I was going to say, I did get a ride in this weekend. Didn't mention. So today was a fun ride, actually. If you recall, last week I got a set of new tires on and really didn't get a chance to scrub them in. So today was a let's go out and scrub the tires ride. So quick one this morning before the major heat hit the southeast. I picked just some local roads that are fun and somewhat technical, and just spent about 130 miles just scrubbing them in and slowly increasing lean and angle and aggressive. But it was a nice, easy ride and just really pleasant. So the tires are not edge to edge. Didn't get that far, nor did I want to. But they are well scrubbed.
The last time I got tires, I immediately hopped on them and drove to Atlanta. When I got back, I went to a range that they don't close the gate on and just kind of did several exercises back and forth. And I noticed that really helped me get that side to side wear, because I was pretty much slabbing it for the first, several hundred miles, which, doesn't really help in corners. So that really kind of helped, get some of that wear off on the edges, just doing some practicing. And
I've read these days that latest tires are not like as of old, as to where you had to really scrub them down, and that it was like take it easy the first few dozen miles. But mine, I think, is just for my own mental peace of mind. I know that I've progressively gotten more and more aggressive with them, and no issues, and it just, now I'll go out my next ride and I won't even think about it. I'll just forget it as I ride.
Yeah, my usually taking it easy when I get new tires is because they're actually round again and not square.
Yeah, that's true too. This bike turns.
Oh, I remember the first time I ever had tires like changed. And they were like a different model. They're much more of a rounded corner, more so than the ones that definitely were. Even if I'd have got the same tire, it would have been not quite as rounded. And I remember the first corner I took, I was like, holy crap. I was like, that was sharp. I almost ran into a ditch,
Yeah. I've done that where, all of a sudden it just cuts in so much quicker than you were used to on the old tires.
And then like a week later, you're off in the twisties, just like, this is great. So anyway.
Yeah.
But it is true that new tires do have some kind of sort of slippery coating on them that you have to rub off, right?
Well, the old adage is they added a spray to the inside of the mold that they make the tires, and that you had to wear the spray off because it is a release agent, right? It's something that's like just slippery, and you need to wear it off, and you have to be careful. I have heard that that's no longer the case, that you really don't need to do that, that they do other things. Now, I'm not an expert of this. It's hearsay both ways. To be honest, Rodney in the chat would probably have a better clue because I think he's in contact with more.
Yeah, he says he saw two people crash in front of his shop on new tires.
Oh, really?
I have heard that. I mean, even when I got, the shop always tells me, take it easy for a little bit, especially right on. I think, they are probably a little slick as soon as you put them on the bike. And if you take a shop right or sharp left right out of the shop, probably not best.
Yeah. Well, and what a lot of people were worried about is the tire not having the grip. So, like the issues that you're not talking about, Tom, are more of, hey, it's turning in more because it's not squared off.
Right.
But the issue that the whole go slow is in the corners when you're using more friction and your contact patch is actually a little bit smaller, that because it's slippery, you could just lose the friction, and so that's what they're talking about. That's why you're scrubbing in your tires. It's to get all that stuff off so you don't slide sideways. Now, okay. So Rodney is saying from Dunlop, it's because the rubber is not cured out. It needs to be heat cycled a few times to finish curing. So that is coming from Dunlop. Split Hairs in the chat actually mentioned cold tires, which are honestly pretty. I mean, that's hard, the hard rubber, and it's not warmed up to where you're not actually grabbing as much of the road. I saw a video on YouTube, and it was over in England or Great Britain or somewhere, that general vicinity. And the guy was riding, and he was just taking corners, and the corner didn't look that bad, and all of a sudden the bike just let go and he low-sided. And afterwards, he was like, so, yeah, I mean, he literally just got on the bike and took off, and within like 2 miles, he had this low side. And afterwards, he put up like, I should have been a little bit more cautious. It was only so many degrees Celsius. Well, me not knowing how to do that conversion in the top of my head anymore. After I looked at
plus 32.
Huh?
9/5 plus 32.
Yeah, well. And I looked it up, like, what is that conversion? And, he was out there in like 40-degree weather. Right? And, that's part of that not letting your tires warm up, not letting your bike warm up. You need to do that on cold days, and you need to just be cautious when you get new tires.
It's just a question for me of how cautious do you need to be. Now, when I armor rolled my tires,
that sounds like a bad idea.
When I armor rolled my tires, going around a corner at any speed was literally like riding on ice.
It's right after he cleaned the brake rotors with WD-40.
Exactly. They gleamed. Let me tell you, they shone in the sun. But so that's sort of my point of comparison.
Yeah.
How slippery are new tires in comparison to Armor All tires?
I would think Armor All tires are more slippery.
Well, I would think so too.
Yeah, because that's
hazardous to your health.
Well, either one in certain situations. All right. Oh, I did have a topic, and I have not prepped you guys at all because it happened to me yesterday. And the topic is first off, do you have your cell phone like just mounted on your handlebars? And if so, what handlebar mount do you use to hold your cell phone?
Ooh.
Yes. Mine's always been on my handlebars.
And what mount do
Right.
you use?
I use a mounting system called quad lock.
Okay.
So it's actually a case that your phone goes into, and the back is you press it on and twist, and it locks it in place. So it's called quad lock. I've been using them now for probably going on 7-8 years. Have been on all my motorcycles. It's on a scooter. It's on my bicycle, both off road, and I've never had it move or pop off. It's been I endorse them 100%. It's been a great system.
So here, all right. So, and well, Larry, what about you?
Well, I use RAM mounts.
Okay.
You know,
The X grip.
Yeah, it looks like it's the X grip mount exactly, and that's been sufficient for my. I use it both for my phone and for my GPS, and that's been sufficient. I had my phone pop off one time years ago when I was going on the shoulder, and they had those grooves cut into the pavement to indicate that you were going off the road. And I was going around traffic, and the bike was vibrating very severely, and the phone popped out of the mount. That's the only time that's ever happened.
So I too am a current RAM X grip. I mean, I've had this for 5 years. And so the little rubbery things on the X grip, I actually had one come off the other day during the ride. Like it just came off.
I glue mine on because that happens.
And I did too. It just cut itself in half and came off. Not really sure how, but it wasn't there anymore, except for the bottom part that I glued. However, I had already been looking for improvements because of the way the mount squeezes my phone. It causes the little screen protector I have to kind of bubble up on the phone. And I was like, that's one, it causes a lot of glare. And it doesn't lay back down. And so the phone looks kind of beat up and everything. And I'm just kind of like, how can I resolve this? And I was actually looking at the quad lock, and there's another one that's like Rocks Mount something, or there's another one out there that's very similar to the quad lock. Mm-hmm. It actually has a magnet where it's got the little cutout. You put it in and you twist it, and so that kind of holds it. But then the magnet actually keeps it held to where it doesn't go left or right. And the quad lock has and tell me if I'm wrong here, Tom. You put it in, and it's got little plastic things that click up in place to keep the thing from rotating, and that's what that lever is. If you see in the commercials, you hit the lever down.
Exactly. Then it's spring loaded, and you twist it, and it locks it in place at 4 points, so it can't come off, and you can set it to be vertical or horizontal.
Yeah, and Vapor just reminded me, it's Rock Form is the other one I was talking about with the magnet. But here's my problem. I am I like the systems. The problem that I have is I am a wireless charging kind of person, right? I've had too many phones and cables just going out because of the connector that you plug it in, plug it out, and because I'm a heavy device user. And so I'd have to charge my phone all the time. And so I'm a wireless charging, if I'm not using it, I put it on the wireless charger. Right now my phone is on a wireless charger, and it pops up so I can see it and everything. And my truck has one in. I mean, it's just kind of how I charge my phones 99% of the time, except when I'm on the motorcycle. And that's fine. I don't need wireless charging. But what I need is for the product to not interfere with the wireless charging. Now it's using electromagnetics to do the charging, so having a big magnet in the back of it kind of eliminates the rock form. But I like the rock form because the problem I have with a quad lock is the case is got the bump that you snap it into, so the case doesn't lay flat. It kind of, has this little
it's got a little extension on it.
Yeah, which would hold it off of the. In my case, it would hold it off of my,
So
chargers.
two things is that I use wireless charging on my iPhone, and it goes through it just fine. I mean, I've got like a stand-up wireless charger that just, you just lean the phone into it, and it works fine. The second is that Quad Lock now sells a wireless charger incorporated into their locking mechanism.
Mm.
And I have seen that. And Rockform does too, but that just gives me wireless charging while I'm on the bike. And that's great. But it's not when I'm on the bike, because when I'm using it the most, right? And that's when I need the wireless charging. So I'm hesitant, because when you look it up, they're like, it may or may not work depending on your phone and depending on your charger. Like the charger the charger I have next to me, I have a feeling it might work. The charger I have next to my bed and next to a couple of the places I sit in the house, I don't think that they will, because they're the cheaper chargers.
I've got a couple of wireless chargers, and I've never had an issue. Now I've only used iPhones, so I had what the hell did I have early on? I guess an iPhone 6. That didn't have wireless charging. Then I got what do I have now? An XR, I think, and never had any issue with it. I mean, I've had this case on constantly, and the case does protect it very nicely. It's rubberized. It doesn't add a lot of bulk. And I've dropped the phone, and it's protected it. So, I've always endorsed it. I think it's one of the best systems out there. But you got to get used to having that little, I guess if you wanted to, you could pop it out of the case. It's easy enough. But you got to get used to having that little, it does protrude slightly. It's a little rounded on the back.
Yeah. I mean, any problems getting that in and out of your pockets or anything like that?
Oh no, that's why I went with this. Is that it's easy, because I always throw my phone in my front pocket.
All right, because I know how much you like to wear those tight jeans, so that really helps me.
In my skinny jeans, it works just fine. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So are there any other options out there other than those three? I mean, I know there's different kind of clamps. Like there's the ones that clamp in from the side. I know. I mean, Ram has several different types. I mean, mine doesn't even have. Like I know after they sold mine, it's just the X grip. Then they had one that had this little bungee thing that you put over the four corners of your phone.
That comes with with my X grips. It actually comes with that rubber thing that you can.
Mine didn't, because I bought mine. Like I said, 5 years ago, and it didn't come with it. I think they started it after I bought it, because it wasn't in the box. And I never seen it before until after that.
I'll take a picture of mine and throw it up on the Facebook. I think I can do that on the community site, because I used to have mine mounted right on the handlebar on the center, but because I carry a tank bag, I could only see the top half of the phone. So just recently, several months ago, I moved it to a ram ball with about a 3-inch arm, so it basically sits up nice and high, and right in front of me, and it's easy to manipulate the phone while I'm on the bike.
Yeah, and that's one good point to make, is that they do have the RAM attachments, right, to where you can actually do that. So I mean that's one thing I was going to do, is I was just going to put it in the same spot.
Yeah, and if I need to charge, I don't have the wireless charger on the bike, because I've got several RAM mounts, or not RAM mounts, but quad lock mounts. So I have them purchase that. It's easy enough where I do have a USB charger right on the dash, so I keep a wire and it's just running around the handlebars, and I plug it into the phone, and I'm fine that way. And I leave enough space where it doesn't have an issue with the handlebar turning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kevin in the chat said that Ciro makes one. I actually had the Ciro one. We had that as a giveaway years ago when they were sponsor of the show, and I wasn't a fan of theirs.
Yeah.
Just didn't. Now that their newer one, I'm talking about their older one that's like $40 or something like that. We had the base model. The newer ones, I don't know if they're how they hold up, but their older ones I wasn't a fan of.
Yeah, so the one negative, I guess, of the quad lock is that you can't use your own type of case. You have to use their case, and it's integrated and fits on. And they do have waterproof covers that go over them as well. Yeah. But if you're, married to whatever case you have, or you've got an indestructible case, then that won't work for you. You've got to go use one of the pressurized mounts.
Rodney is saying Larry's body keeps disappearing because of the picture.
We have our bikes on display tonight.
And what was I going to say?
So it looks like, Tom, that you have an RT behind you.
So in my parade of bikes that I've owned in order, so last week, if you recall, I had my V-Strom. So this was my first BMW. So I'll pull away. You could see that a little bit better. That's a 2010 R1200 RT. Mm-hmm. And that's probably circa 2010. That was right about when I bought that. So it's about 10 years old. That picture was taken, but that was my first dive into the Beamers.
And why did you move from that to a GS?
Because I actually was riding that RT off-road more than I was my V-Strom. And I had these delusions of grandeur of, okay, I want to do some off-road riding, and even went to the BMW Academy before I got the GSA, which will be my next bike you'll see next week or week after. And, did their 2-day off-road course, and, had these delusions of going off-road. And I did ride off-road quite a bit with that bike, and then figured out I really don't like off-road riding. Sorry, Kevin. It just, turned out it just wasn't for me. So I still have a GS, but it does not go off-road other than an occasional gravel or dirt road to get me from point A to point B. But I don't go looking for it.
Yeah, I mean, I was on I was riding through a pasture and down some little trails I found this weekend on my itinerary. I was just like, I still got enough tires left to take this on, and just kind of put it around there a little bit. But hey, it's to each their own, man. You're on two wheels. For the most part, I don't care. So you're doing that.
So I'm one of those GS riders that hey, I take it down to the Starbucks and park and have my espresso.
Yep. Just own it, man. If that's you, just own it. So, all right. Let's move on to some news. First off, we're going to start with, speaking of dirt bike riding, dirt bike sales have led the U.S. motorcycle industry to a 6.4% gain for the first 6 months of 2020. Now, I think we had at some point mentioned this before, that dirt bike sales during the quarantines were taking off because, well, pretty much we couldn't go anywhere on roads. But apparently it's really picked up. They're saying that street bike sales were down 23%. Off-road bikes were up an astonishing 30%. And let's see, dual sport sales split the difference and were down 5% for the first quarter. So, I mean, you don't have to get into any kind of office to register it. You just got to take it out to the trails where nobody's around you and go ride. So that makes sense.
You don't have to have insurance, right? Unless you optional, right?
Yeah, it's optional.
All right.
So I didn't know that. So you don't need to register the bikes. You don't need a license for an off-road.
Nope. Now, I mean, insurance. I will say this: it could be state to state. There's some states that I'm sure have some crazy laws about having insurance or liability or something, but I don't think in Alabama you have to, because that's for vehicles on public roads. So if it never touches a public road, shouldn't need insurance for it. So, but I don't know about all states. Some states that have large trail systems like Utah and Arizona and stuff. Sorry, Larry, your keyboard is just hilarious today.
Just pounding.
Yeah. But you sound a little weird. I think we're gonna have to tweak your new computer settings a little bit more.
Okay.
So, but we'll take care of that later. Let's see. But yeah, so back to the article. Lost my place. But I mean, overall, this is really good. I mean, apparently, talking to U.S. dealers, the rise in motorcycle sales can be attributed, at least in part, to the coronavirus stimulus package released by the U.S. government. So, I guess people took that and been like, hey, I got my eye on something. Let me go pick it up. So that's really good. I mean, I'm glad people are getting out there and riding, and hopefully these are some new riders as well, getting a good start in dirt, and will eventually translate over to the street.
Yeah, I was going to say, could that be part of, if all right, your family is stuck together, and that's you can get dirt bikes as small as 50 cc's for the little ones, and it's, I guess, a good family outing.
Hey, look, if I would have had my trailer, then we would have. I mean, when I ordered my trailer, it would have come in time to where, decent weather riding season. We'd have been out there tearing it up a lot, to the point where I would not have been able to go to some of the places that you have to pay to go. It'd have been more trying to find public areas that will let us ride and everything once they kind of got their skills down. But yeah, it's I think it's a good thing, and I'm glad to see people getting out there and doing it. Because that's, if you're a new rider, then you're getting gear, you're getting everything you need to go out there and ride, and that's helping the industry as well. So can't complain with that.
Hey, I see a little blurb. Scooter sales rose by 4%. All right. There's always that plus.
Yep, and I think that's basically it's good news. It's positive news, and I think that the pandemic has increased people's interest in doing things they can do close to home or from home. And it's true, in California, you do not need insurance to do off-road riding. So you can just buy the bike and take it off-road.
And go.
Yeah. Split Hairs is in chat is saying that in Idaho, a $10 sticker is required on dirt bikes. So
that's easy.
Yeah. But, and California, I don't know. You'll have to check on that.
I just checked. It doesn't. There's no insurance required in California for off-road bikes.
Okay. I know where I'm at though. If there's no registration, there's pretty much nothing. Or if there is, me nor anybody I know has ever done it. Unless it's a dual sport and you're taking it on the road, then yes, you should play it.
Right, that's different.
Yeah.
Or in Georgia, we have up in the mountains a lot of fire roads. Technically, those are public roads.
Yes. Yeah. Like if your plan is to go to the national park and ride all the fire roads and ride all the trails there, even though you wouldn't think that those are public roads, those are technically public roads, even though like it takes 4-wheel drive to get down them. They're still public roads now. And I've mentioned this on the show before. I've seen both a state trooper and a ranger sitting at the edge of an exit at one of these, and we pulled up, and the group we were with had their daughter on a little, like Yamaha, TTR 90 or something like that. And we're about to turn on the pavement just to go to where we park, because they're all, you've got like these little 100-yard sections of pavement connecting a lot of these. And, all the adult bikes were pretty much ready to go, plated, and everything was fine. And they were just like, hey, getting them out here, teaching them how to ride early. Man, good, and didn't say anything to them, because, we literally protected, like, 2 people in front, 2 people behind her, kind of protected her, and we went her speed. So, we were in first gear trucking down this road. Not that far, but, and they didn't, here, that day, those particular officers didn't seem to mind. I can say it like that. All right.
Yeah, cool.
Let's see. Let's move on to some news from over the pond. Stevenage, give it a shot. Stevenage Council injunction could mean a ban on group rides in the town. So they are banning car cruising, and that is interpreted as also meaning a ban on group rideouts for motorcycles in the town. So riding or driving in a convoy would apply to car drivers, motorcycle riders, passengers, and or spectators. The way it is written later in the article, it could also, according to some of the comments in the article itself, could relate to funerals and everything else, just because I
love that part.
It's seemingly poorly written. It's just like, well, if it's poorly written, then that's what it could be. And it's really affecting this one particular bike shop that is a local spot to get together and start and end rides at. And there's really been no complaint ever lodged. They don't know where it is, except for somebody apparently one day didn't like it and has a stroke to get rid of it. That's kind of where, they're like, why is this happening? But, it's pretty much, hey, if you are in a convoy, you're illegal. Just riding with your friends, you're illegal in this town. And I realize this is not in the U.S., but my tax dollars pay for this road. And if I'm not doing anything like that's breaking traffic laws, it doesn't matter if there's 1 or 10 or 50 bikes. What if you just accidentally ride up and there's like 2 other bikes there? You're now in a convoy and you get a ticket just because you accidentally.
Yeah, you've done that where you've ridden up behind 2 or 3 bikes at a light and
you stayed with them for a couple miles just because y'all were heading that general direction. And so this is where this is a sad state of affairs. England really has been locking down on, we don't like this, ban it. We don't like this, ban it. It's cancel culture gone awry. And unfortunately, it seems like motorcycles lately have been the victim of a lot of these things. One person passes it, and then everybody else, oh, that's a good idea. We're going to do the same thing too. We don't like those bikes either. It doesn't matter that the people that are riding them like them and should have that freedom to do so. But like I said, this is a different country than I'm living in. And,
Well, one of you guys threw this up. Do you think that something like this could ever cross over into the States?
Absolutely. In today's society, absolutely.
Go ahead.
When you list through the stuff that's injunction, that's going along with it, some of it is common sense and should probably already be on the books.
Like everything on that list, except for riding in a convoy, should already be on the books.
Littering. So riding in a convoy apparently correlates to urinating in public.
Hey, you can't swear at anybody on a motorcycle because don't be swearing at anybody. Have you watched the news lately? Really? It's you can swear at somebody if you're off the bike. If you're on the bike and swear at somebody, now you're illegal. That's what that says.
Yeah, supplying or using illegal drugs.
Yeah,
that
already
always
illegal.
Happens in a.
Well, I think. Look. I think that the thing about this that is of concern to me is that it seems to reflect the negative perception that the public has or may have about motorcyclists. And, we know that a lot of these stereotypes are not true, but that doesn't seem to matter. If the greater public seems to have this perception that that we're scofflaws and that we're more likely to, do drugs and urinate in the street and this kind of thing. We talked before about laws that they're passing and devices that they're implementing to catch motorcyclists that break the the decibel limits. And again, it all just seems to go along with some negative perception that the public has about motorcyclists, and that's my concern.
So this apparently was written primarily against car clubs, but motorcycles are mentioned and apparently being caught up in it. I believe there are some cities in the U.S. that have anti-cruising laws, i.e., if they see you going down Main Street X number of times in a short period, you could get a ticket for cruising. I believe those are already in the books in some small towns.
So here's what part of it that I really enjoy. Stopping or parking vehicles or otherwise congregating at the location of a street cruise for the purpose of watching it. It's illegal to be there and watching the cars drive by.
Well, I agree that these seem like silly and superfluous and redundant laws, and that's the argument that the shop in the town is making, that there are already laws on the books that deal with illegal behaviors. These are simply redundant. But again, my take on it is that it's yet another reflection of a negative perception of motorcycling and motorcyclists, and that's something I think we have to take into account and think about how to counter it.
Yeah. Oh, and don't sound your horn or play your radios either, because that's also illegal.
Yeah, yes. I mean, we are perceived as just hooligans, and that perception today is even being exasperated. What's making national news? Well, all the stuff going on at Sturgis. Nobody has any idea outside of the motorcycling world what a rally may even look like, and there's all different types, but the perception is, I see what's being flashed on about Sturgis. That's what I think a motorcycle rally is. That's what I think what happens when motorcycle people or bikers get together.
Well, unfortunately, what's flashed on the news isn't the truth, and we know that. But not everybody does, and that's what's the unfortunate part. So let's, this is unfortunate. Hopefully it doesn't pass, but they really said that there's nothing that they can do to stop it. And I feel sorry for the people of Stevenage. Am I saying that right? Stevenage?
That's the way I would pronounce it.
Yeah. So you guys can tell the stupid American how to say it if you feel like, and I'll be glad to correct myself because I have no idea.
In the proper English.
Well, see, technically, the northeastern accent of the U.S. is proper English and closer to the English accent at the time of the Revolution. That's the funny thing about it. And then when they got back, they're like, well, we're going to change how we speak because we don't want to speak like those ingrates. And the upper class changed how they talk so they don't talk like the lower class. And so that's when all the flair got thrown into the English language.
So many years ago, I had a friend who was from Cockney, England, and he had a heavy Cockney accent.
Yeah, that's hard. That was a hard one for me.
My wife never had a clue as to what he was saying.
I can understand. I tell you, the accent that I have the hardest time with is an Indian accent. I don't know if it's hearing damage or what. I just have a hard time following the cadence there. and the Scottish accent I'm pretty good with, but yeah, that's the I can't say the word, the Cockney accent. I can't.
Cockney.
I
Yeah,
have a hard time
you
with
got
it.
to listen closely, and it
Yeah.
depends on how bad it is. And of course, my buddy, as he drank more, it got worse. So,
Well, I mean,
that-
I know people close by that have that
but
same thing.
I would say that in the U.S. I mean, but take someone from the Bronx and someone from Cajun area, Louisiana, put them in the same room together, they can probably barely communicate.
You put anybody in the U.S. in the room with a Cajun, and we can't understand them. And this is totally not on the subject of motorcycles, but the water boy, they got their coach, and LSU's coach, he has a really thick accent,
Oh God,
and
yeah.
and to me, there's a, he's like Deschioto. That does. I just every time I hear. Now I love Orgeron. He's a great character and individual. But I always think back to Waterboy when I hear him talking. But anyway, all right. So something that should make you guys happy. The electric BMW C1 gets airbags, a safety cell, active arrows, and can be ridden as a normal bike. What does that even mean, as a normal bike?
Well, it means that you can take off the roof and turn it into a more of just a typical scooter.
That's right, people. He said roof. Just.
It's a roof. They used to sell one of these.
Oh, I know they did.
did.
I know they did. And I know they were very popular over in England and Europe and that area. But it's just, not something. That's not what I was expecting to say today when I woke up this morning. Is you'll be able to take off your roof and go for a proper motorcycle ride. Oh, I'm sorry, scooter ride.
And it's not just the roof, because it also has airbags.
And it's got a windshield and a windshield wiper. And so I know a guy here in town. He had an old one of these from the 90s. It was a 150, I think, and he used it to commute. This guy put 30,000 miles a year on this bike. Fantastic rider, but that's what he rode, was a 150 scooter, and he rode it year round in every kind of weather.
Mm-hmm. Well, BMW, it didn't sell that well overall, although it was popular in England. But BMW seems to be thinking about bringing it back in a modern version, and this version would have, as it's fully equipped, it would have airbags, and it would have seat belts of some fashion, and a moderate roof, a windscreen, and it would be considered as a commuter. And this is an electric. This would be an electric version, based on their electric scooter model. And they say that if you just want to do sort of sport riding, you can take off all of the extra stuff and be left with a typical scooter type bike. So, it's interesting to me that BMW is thinking about bringing this back in a modernized version. Personally, it's just hard for me to imagine that a whole lot of people would buy this thing. But if and especially since the price is probably not going to be very cheap, But BMW's.
What do they say? North of 20,000 pounds. So I don't know what the exchange rate that it is today. Is that about 25,000?
Yeah,
about 25.
I'll go pick up my KTM 790ER.
That's a lot. Yeah. I mean, so they do sell their electric scooter here in the U.S. Larry, I think it's limited to California, because I've not ever heard of them selling it anywhere outside of California.
Really?
I know, talking with my local dealer, BMW makes it very cost prohibitive to bring the electric scooter into the dealership because of the required training that they want from the mechanics, and then extra tools and certifications. And I know in talking with like I say, the local dealer, they were like, it just wasn't worth it. Not for the market that exists, but.
Well, you see, I don't think there's much of a market in the States for this kind of thing because people here don't use motorcycles to commute. I think you need a market where people are interested in and need to use two-wheel vehicles to get around in order for this to have any appeal at all.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I know I'm not in a major city, but where I'm at, while I see more than I did a couple of years ago, like in the building that I'm working out, which has a ton of people working there. I mean, it's a very large data center for a, multinational bank, and the U.S. headquarters for it. There's, on a good day, 8 of us that ride in, and on a day where it rains, there's 1. Like if you know it's going to storm, there's 1 bike. Now he's the only one that truly commutes every day on his bike.
But if you had a bike with a roof and a windscreen and a windshield wiper, wouldn't you want to use that?
Yeah, I've got one. It's called my truck.
So commuting is, you have to want to do it. I've commuted for several years on a bike when I was going into an office, and it was by choice, but it was definitely more difficult because in bumper to bumper traffic, I'm sitting in the same spot that I would be if I was in my car. There's no, other than what you want to do, there's no advantage to riding a motorcycle here. And if we were able to queue up at lights, that would be great. It would cut the commute down by, at least mine used to be probably take 20 minutes off of it easily, near probably 40% less. But I think that's the reason why you don't see something like this or commuting happen in the U.S. You really have to want to do it because there's no advantage.
Yeah, that's true.
You live in a different world there, on the West Coast.
I do.
I am jealous of that.
Even here, you don't see a whole lot of people, motorcyclists commuting. You see a number, and you see a fair number of people doing lane splitting, but it's not like you see for instance, in Italy or France, or where they're just hordes of motorcyclists.
Mm-hmm. That's true. So, yeah, it's neat. Will I ever see one out in the wild? Highly doubt it. But then I've never seen a live wire out in the wild either.
I saw 2.
I have.
A few weeks ago, yeah.
Have you? Oh, all right.
Yeah. Which is weird because none of the dealers around here actually service it.
Really?
So,
Really?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. None of the dealers in Alabama that I know of sell or service the live wires. The company wanted too much money from the dealers to set it up, and they were like, nope. So
yeah, there was a good YouTube video watched sometime this week on someone taking just kind of doing a real world ride with an electric bike, and it got me thinking of that today. As far as I went out from my house which for me was just a quick ride. It was a few hours, did about 130 miles. And it was a mix of highway and back roads. Probably spent out of that 130, maybe 30, 40 at most on the highway. The rest was all back roads, such. The way electric bikes are today, I could not have done that ride. Not with the pace and the way I was riding. Mm-hmm. There's not a bike that would run 130 miles between highway and back road twisties and have me back home.
Yeah. Well, but think about this: 5 years ago, right? 5 years ago, electric bikes were a novel concept that was 5 to 10 years out. Well, we're at that 5-year place. So, and in 5 years, sure, it may very well be possible for you to have a bike that could do 200 miles.
Problem is, I'm getting older, and I don't think that the technology is going to catch up to me. I would love to
Yeah.
have an electric bike. I was an electric car owner. I'd love to have one, but the technology just isn't there for me.
I have a feeling I'm going to be in the same way. For as big of a technophile as I am, I'm not going to be able to enjoy all my sci-fi dreams come true. I mean, I guess technically I have the Star Trek communicator I carry around every day. So,
Well, that's
You have an
true. And
iPad. You have it's a tricorder.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
we're getting close.
it's not quite a tricorder, but it's getting there. It's getting there.
if I commuted now, if I was working and I commuted by bike, I might see getting an electric bike or motorcycle or scooter.
Oh well, it would
Now,
if I had if for commuting purposes, it would absolutely work for me.
yeah.
Absolutely work for me.
Yeah,
For
that's
going out
weird.
and
So I
playing
commuted both
purposes, I don't
Yeah,
know.
not so much yet.
Yeah,
Not so
yeah.
much yet.
It fits because I commuted both on the GS and even the big GSA and the scooter. The scooter was infinitely easier because in stop and go, I didn't have to play with the clutch.
Right.
If it was a double lane, because of the size of the scooter and the size of the wheels, I was infinitely more maneuverable. So yeah, I could dart in and out of traffic on the Vespa much easier than on the GS. So
Not that we
was easy.
recommend darting in and out of traffic.
No, but it was surprisingly in town. I ride more aggressively on the scooter than I do on the GS, but I don't know why. It's just the Italian comes out in me.
And not the German? Really?
Yeah, I'm half Ukrainian, half Italian, so that's that side comes out.
All right. Well, let's toss it over to the paddock. See what's going on over in MotoGP.
Well, thanks, Kevin. There actually is a lot. Today was MotoGP race in Austria, and it was a very eventful race indeed. Even the lead up to the race was eventful. So much to my surprise, it was announced prior to the race that Andrea Dovizioso, would not be re-signing with Ducati. And this was a surprise to me. I knew that they were in conflictual contract talks, and but I did expect that in the end that Ducati would re-sign Dovizioso. He's a very good rider, and he's been really the only rider in the MotoGP stable that has been competitive with Marquez, and so he's been second to Marquez for the last few years, but he's been able to garner some first place finishes, and really is about the only rider that's been able to effectively challenge Marquez in the last few years. So, but Ducati, at least some of Ducati, apparently doesn't feel the same way, and they feel that Dovizioso is not going to be the rider that will get them championships. So, all of that preceded this race and garnered a lot of airtime and print space on the MotoGP circuit. Then the qualifying itself was a surprise. Vinales came back and took pole position. He was very fast in the qualifying, and Jack Miller on the Pramac Ducati actually took second, and he's been, of course, a up and coming rider this year. And third place was taken by Quartararo, whom we know is a very fast rider. He's on the not the Petronas Yamaha team, and Dovizioso, Espargaro, and Mir were in the second row. So Morbidelli, Rins, and Zarco took the third row. So the first three rows were mostly youngsters and relative youngsters filling up those spaces. So it looks like this year we're seeing a real transition to the newer riders. Of course, this is all facilitated by the fact that Marquez is not racing yet. The race itself was also full of surprises. The start was it was a good start. Miller and Dovizioso sort of jumped into the lead, and this was a race where the Ducatis and parenthetically the KTM's were expected to dominate because they are the most powerful and fastest bikes in terms of straight ahead acceleration. Maverick Vinales was in the first three, and so was Mir on a Suzuki, who had a really good start. Fabian Quartararo on the Petronas Yamaha didn't fare so well. And once the race got going, Vinales started to steadily fall back, and this has been his want in a number of races recently. And going back to last year, for reasons that are not clear. He just doesn't seem to be as fast in the first half of the race as often as he is in the second half. Miller ran really well, and he was building a lead over the second place Dovizioso, but Paul Espargaro on KTM was on a mission this week. Last week he felt he cheated out of a podium place, perhaps a victory, because he and Zarco had a run in, and they were both knocked out of the race. So Espargaro was really pissed off about that, and he was on a mission today, and so using his really good acceleration, he was pursuing Dovey and Jack Miller, and started to take a commanding lead. However, lap 8 was to spell disaster. As back in the field, Johan Zarco on a non-factory Ducati, and Franco Morbidelli, who's on one of the non-factory Yamahas, they tangled in a horrendous crash. It looked like I've watched the replays and quite a few times, and it looks like what happened was that they were in turn 1, I think, on the racetrack, or turn 2. It's a very sharp turn. They're coming down from a long straightaway into a very sharp turn, and so they're hard on the brakes, and they're still going very fast. And apparently, Morbidelli plowed into the back of Zarco as Zarco was braking and preparing to go into the turn, and both of them went down immediately. The bikes just were flung across the track. Morbidelli's bike, I think, was still on its wheels, and it was just racing through the off-track area and then went right across the track, and just narrowly missed Valentino Rossi. And then I think Zarco's bike was tumbled across the track and just narrowly missed Vinales. And I mean, we're talking about inches here. Both of those riders felt the wind from these bikes' parts crossing their path. It was a miracle that they weren't injured. It was also a miracle that neither Zarco nor Morbidelli were seriously injured in this crash. However, the crash created a red flag situation. The race was stopped. The riders went back into the pits, and the crews came out to clean off the track. And so the race was restarted. And in the restart, this proved to be fateful for Espargaro, because after the restart, Miller jumped into the lead, and Miller decided to be very aggressive. So he was running on soft tires, front and rear. Nobody else was. This was, and they still had 20 laps to go in the race. This was a longer race. But I think Miller was thinking of building the lead in the first part, and then he would just try to nurse his tires in the second part of the race and try to get a victory that way. And sure enough, he was able to jump into the lead and separate himself from Espargaro and from Dovizioso as well. The two Suzukis with Rins and Mir were running in 4th and 5th, and they were really doing quite well. And as the race progressed, Dovizioso and the Suzuki's just were able to hang on to Miller, and he just never was able to drop them. Espargaro was, I think, just overly emotional by this time in the race. He was pissed, he was angry, and he was desperate, and so he kept making mistakes. He kept making wide turns, and then he would lose some places, and eventually he took a turn wide, tried to move back towards center track, and crashed into Oliveira in a crash that was eerily similar to the one that he was in last week with Zarco. And so he was out of the race again. And this was unfortunate because he really deserves to at least get a podium finish and maybe a first place finish, given the work that he's done with KTM and his ability. However, he was out of the race. So much for that. With 10 laps to go, Rins was challenging Dovizioso, and he, in a turn, lost his front tire, went down, slid out of the race, and which is unfortunate because he was riding rather brilliantly, and especially given the fact that he still has a damaged left shoulder. And meanwhile, Brad Binder, who won last week on KTM and put KTM and the rest of the field in the spotlight as the up-and-coming brand in MotoGP, Binder, who started like in 17th place, had managed to work his way up to 4th place. He had a great start in the second part of the second start of the race, and now he's in 4th place, and he's steadily gaining on the leaders. And Rossi as well, who started I think in 12th place, was managing to had moved up to 5th place. Dovizioso had managed to get past Miller and take the lead. Miller was fading because his tires were wearing. Dovizioso, as is his wont, on this track was running very fast lap times, was nursing his tires. He was also helping to slow down the field so that he could preserve his tires and maintain the ability to run fast in the last few laps if he needed it. So Dovizioso basically was running his often done very tactical and insightful race. So that's the way the race ended. Dovizioso took first. In the last lap, Doran Mir on the Suzuki kept trying to pass Miller. He couldn't do it. The Miller's Ducati just had too much acceleration for Mir to get by him. But his tires were wearing, and in one of the last turns on the last lap of the race, Miller had to run wide, and Mir was able to duck in underneath on the fast-turning Suzuki, and he took 2nd place. So this was a first podium finish for Mir, and also a deserved one because he is a very talented young rider. So Mir took 2nd, Miller took 3rd, and Binder, in a stellar ride, managed to get into 4th place. Rossi ran a very consistent race, and he went from, I think, 12th place in the start to 5th place in the finish. And Fabian Quartararo managed to keep his 1st place lead overall, although he only finished in 8th place. And Maverick Vinales, who had faded to dead last at some point in the pack, was able to move up to 10th place. And both he and Quartararo seemed to be blaming the bikes for the problems they had in the race. It looked like Dovizioso was destined to win the race today. He's won this race, I think, 2 out of the last 3 years. And especially with Marquez out, it looked like it was just his race to lose, and he didn't. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Yamaha next week in terms of the bikes and what Vinales and Quartararo have to say about the bikes. It's very curious why they had the problems that they did. It's hard to imagine that Dovizioso won't be getting a ride next year. And I was reading just before the show that he may very well go with Aprilia next year, which will be quite interesting because he may be able to then elevate Aprilia the way Espargaro has and Binder have been doing with KTM and make them another competitive brand and bike in MotoGP, which would be great for all concerned. Now, the accident with Zarco and Morbidelli, initially I thought it might have been Zarco's doing, and this would have been the second time in 2 weeks that Zarco was involved in a race-changing event. But from everything that I've seen and heard, people are saying that this was just a race accident. Nobody was to blame. And, I don't think that Zarco's going to get a lot of flack about this. So next week, we're going to pick up where we left off. The racing has gotten very interesting. And I hate to say it, because I think that Marquez is a brilliant rider and deserves what the victories that he has had. But the racing is kind of more fun without him because a lot of other riders are coming to the fore, and it's quite interesting and unpredictable as to what's going to happen. So stay tuned. We've got a lot more to come.
All right. Well, before we wrap the show up, let's give a shout out to our Throttle crew members. Thank you all for supporting the show. If you're interested in joining the Throttle crew, please visit the website throttledpodcast.com. Click on the Patreon logo, and just for a small donation, you get to join the Throttle crew and help out the show. We would really appreciate any support you might be able to give. And looking forward to meeting some new friends. All right. So as Larry continues to hammer away at his keyboard, we're going to go ahead and get wrapped up tonight, and hopefully we'll make some progress on that front before next show. So first off, thank you both of you guys for being here tonight. It was a lot of fun. Good conversation all around. And I know a couple of our live stream members enjoyed our phone holder conversation. They said they were in need. So that's always good to be timely with that kind of information. Hopefully other people out there in podcast land enjoyed it as well. Who would like to sign off first?
Tom would.
Oh, I will hit it first. Hey, it was a good evening. Thanks. Good conversation. I enjoyed that. So everybody have a good week. If you're able to, get out and ride and just be safe. Larry?
Split Hairs has named Larry Thunderfingers Larry.
All right. Well, what can I tell you? It's been fun, and I'm gonna hope the heat spell is going to carry through to most of next week. So I don't know how much riding I'm going to get in next week, but if it does cool off a bit, I will get out there. And when I do ride, I will ride my own ride. So same to you guys, and see you next week.